I would like to call the meeting of the WPCA to order. It is 7:02. First item is roll call.
Richard Boggs,
Here.
Charles Brezin, John Green,
You're muted, John.
Here.
Frank Regnieri,
Here.
and Scott Thornton.
Here.
Very good. We have a quorum.
All right, excellent. All right, next item is approval of minutes. I'd like to call for a motion. Hopefully everyone has had an opportunity to review the October 28th minutes. If there are no comments or problems, I would like to call for a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
This is Frank, so moved.
Do we have a second?
Sure, I'll do it. John, this is John. So seconded.
Okay, now do we have a unanimous agreement to approve the minutes?
Yes.
We can all say yes.
Yes.
Any dissenting votes? No.
No.
Okay,
Approved by unanimous consent.
approved by unanimous consent. Thank you. All right, next item, new business, contract 5, sanitary sewer design update. Bill has some information for us on the tie and bond proposal.
Yeah, we finally got the proposal down to what it really should be. It's down to 206, and the original budget item that we had for it was 214,000. Titan Bond had put in, I don't know if anybody got a chance to take a look at it. They had some of the items that should be paid for by DPW for the drainage and the drainage design. Shouldn't be included in the WPCA portion of the project. So we're down to 206. We do have money for it, and we should vote for this in a positive way. Bill, sorry, this is John. How does that work with I mean, obviously, we can't authorize anything for the DPW. Is that already, you've already checked and they've got the money budgeted to pay their piece, or how does that work? They have a drainage program attached to the paving program, which would have money for it. This is also broken out into a separate category so that, it's obvious. We will make sure that that's covered in the DPW section. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and Bill, just to clarify, the proposal is hourly, correct?
Is in thousands, yes. It's 206,000.
But they'll bill us according to the actual hours expended.
The exact amount is $206,090.
Right, Bill, I think the question is, they're gonna bill on an hourly basis, typically.
That's correct. That's correct. It's a not to exceed price, though.
Okay, and we do have their rates, because I didn't see their rates included in the proposal.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Are those rates in another document? Because I did not see them in the proposal.
Yeah, I believe Margaret sent it out this morning.
The rates?
There's 2 PDFs. I think the second PDF is the estimate.
Yeah, and it's all based on the on-call, the on-call 62227 RFQ or RFP.
Okay, but that has their billing rates.
That has their billing rate in it.
Okay. All right. You need approval from us to proceed with that, correct?
Yes.
All right. I'd like to call for a motion to approve.
Wait a minute, I have one question.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with this other contract. Is that is that a time and material contract, task order contract rather, so we're not violating the town bidding rules by awarding this? I mean,
No. We've already, this went to an RFQ, and we've already vetted it. If you remember, we did it last February.
I don't know if I wasn't here last February.
All right, so we went through the whole process.
Okay, so you conform with the town's tender requirements.
Yes,
All right, that's all. My only
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, and this was a QBS process, right? I mean, it wasn't that, there weren't multiple bids or multiple prices submitted.
yes.
No, it's standard professional service selection, right? You invited a few people to submit in our proposal, their qualifications, you selected it and then negotiated with the ones that you found qualified, right?
That's correct.
Right. Okay, any other concerns before we entertain a motion? No, looks like Chip's joining us.
So, Bill, is your thought to move this forward immediately?
Yes,
All right, well, I'll make the motion, Richard.
Okay, do we have a second?
I will.
We do. Scott seconds. All right, looks like Chip is still signing in, so we can vote.
I'm sorry, can we just say what we are approving? The
we
proposal
are-
as presented,
We
or?
are approving the proposal from Ty and Bond as presented.
Thank you.
And I'd like to approve this by unanimous consent, although Chip has just joined us.
Sorry, I had some problems.
Well, we're just about to vote on approval of the Ty and Bond contract for the Contract 5 design. Since you've joined us right as we were ready to vote, I'll give you the opportunity to comment if you have any. Hopefully you had a chance to review that prior to joining us.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to review it, so
All right, then probably abstaining is appropriate rather than spend the time
Yes.
to get caught up. So, Margaret, I guess, can we do unanimous consent with one abstention? Is that an okay thing to do?
As long as you have no dissenting votes, yes.
Okay. Is everyone in acceptance of approving by unanimous consent? Please, show of hands.
Yes, I don't know if you can see my hand.
Okay, looks like everyone agrees and Chip is abstaining, I assume.
Very good. Thank you.
So it is approved. All right, excellent. All right, next item, the Arcadis force main design proposal, and Bill will speak to that as well.
yes, as I mentioned in the last meeting, I expected 130,000 for the design of the force main replacement. This has been included in your package. I want to point out that on page 3 or 4 of that document, it says the project costs 128,456. The Beardsley, the thought here is that the scope, the present agreement that Arcadis has with the town in regards to the Beardsley Pump Station comprehensive upgrade, there is still in that budget $178,336 left in that budget, and they believe that this 128,000 could come out of that, and we'd still have enough to finish the Beardsley Pump Station because there's only a few minor outstanding items. So they want to amend the original contract to include the upgrade, the force main replacement.
Okay, that sounds good to me. You have any concerns about muddying the waters or anything like that?
I think
it's
a reasonable way to proceed.
Okay. Any concerns from anybody else? I don't know if you,
I'm just
go ahead, Frank.
just reading it now. Bill, this would be to finish the study if they need to do any more testing, and then also design the replacement,
Yes,
including construction drawings, permitting and all that. Yeah, I guess so.
that's correct. That's correct. It's all outlined in the proposal.
Yeah, it's through, it looks like it's through bidding, so there's no construction phase services, but everything else is in there.
I didn't get any of that. I don't know if anybody else did.
I'm not sure what you said, Rick.
Oh, sorry. I just said there are no construction phase services, but everything else is in there through bidding.
I'm sorry again.
Bill,
Well,
Bill, no good?
This is Frank. I can say what he said. He could correct me if I'm wrong, but he said it only goes through bidding. It doesn't include any construction services.
That's correct. That's correct.
For some reason, I can hear you. So
You're a better lip reader, maybe. I don't know.
now I'm reading the proposal.
So I just, I don't know whether we need to vote on that, but, I just want to make everybody aware of the fact that that's how we should proceed. And I think we probably should vote on it just so that everybody is in agreement.
Would think we'd have to, that's a reauthorization for the money. And I mean, that wasn't within the scope of the original project. I would imagine we'd have to.
Yes.
Now, how that looks in terms of an actual motion, I'm not sure.
Well, I think it would read probably read to amend the original contract with Arcadis to include the proposed amendment for the design services related to the Beardsley Pump Station force main.
Okay, so this is essentially a a scope amendment without additional fee associated with it. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, maybe the motion is just to say that, since we're not authorizing any additional funding. It's really just a contract, it's just an amendment of scope. And maybe the motion is, I'll make the motion. I'll move that we authorize Bill to proceed with this contract amendment with the understanding that the funding for the scope that's defined here is already included in the existing contract.
I'm really having a tough
that
time
accurate?
hearing you. Sorry.
I think I got it, which was essentially to amend the initial approval to include the scope that is covered by the proposal that's been presented here, right? Essentially.
That's correct, but no
Yep.
adjustment, in the previously approved amount.
That's correct.
Okay, you got that, Margaret?
You're muted, Margaret.
No, I can't hear you.
I do have it. I do have it. It's worded slightly differently than what you had said, Rick, but we got it.
Okay, can you just read it back so we're sure that we're all agreeing? with
Okay,
everything?
so we're gonna take a little bit of a hybrid of it. Rick had said that we were gonna authorize Bill Maher to proceed with the amendment of scope. No adjustment in the previously approved amount, with no adjustment in the previously approved amount. Does that sound right to you?
Yes.
Yep.
Well, the adjustment in scope as per the proposal presented, whatever terminology you want to use to describe that. I'd have to bring up the proposal to see how they described it, but say
You know
as
what?
per the proposal.
I can add the date of the proposal. Okay,
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's November 5th, 2020.
and then I can attach the proposal itself so
Yeah.
that they'll see it. Okay?
Okay, and I guess between John and I, well, I don't know I don't know who moved and who seconded, but I think we're all kind of assembling this as a group.
I'll move it.
All right,
I'll second.
there we go.
Very good.
And I'd like to approve by unanimous consent. If we're all in agreement, please indicate with your hands. All right,
Aye. Good.
aye. Looks like we're all in. Thank you. And next up, down to old business, Finchwood Drive sewer area. Do we have Amy Tedisco with us?
Yeah, she's a participant.
She's in
She's,
the
I mean, she's an
attendees.
attendee. Sorry.
We need
Okay.
somebody to promote her.
Yeah, I know she wanted to speak and we wanted to give her that opportunity, although I think we've addressed the questions already. We'll proceed. That looks like
You
Christine.
need, the other person needs to be, Amy needs to be promoted. Christine
It's
can be
Amy.
promoted, but
It's
Although we
Amy
can
at
keep Chris-
BT Law.
Yeah, we
Yep.
can keep Christine because we may need her for this discussion anyway. Hi, Christine. Thanks for joining us. Hope you can hear me.
Hello?
Hello, we hear you.
Oh, good. And you see me?
yeah,
We see you too.
Hi, thank you very much for having me again. I was there last month, but computer issues, I was speaking and then realized nobody could hear me. So thank you for the opportunity today. I just wanted to give just a little bit of history, how we've been residents since 1990 in Trumbull, and I met with the then town engineer, don't remember his name, about 15 years ago and asked about when our part of town might be considered. And he said there was nothing in whatever plan they were working on at that point, whatever the project was, but our section of town would be the last. So, okay. 2 years ago, I then, nothing had happened. So I met with Vicky Tesoro. She referred me to Frank Smeriglio. Talked to Frank. Frank said, put it in a letter request. And to my knowledge, that request for sewers, and you have a copy of that letter, was never considered at any WPCA meeting that I'm aware of. I was never notified, and I let it drop until recently when our friends and neighbors, the Santillis, asked me if I knew anything about future sewer projects in our town, just coincidentally. I mean, it was just because they were having a major issue and looking at a failed septic. And that's when I contacted the commission, and I spoke to Bill Mauer first, and I was put on the agenda for the September meeting to really resurrect that letter I had sent back in October of 2018, and to again request that this be considered. There were a couple of statements, and the public wasn't able to participate in the September meeting. I was in attendance at that meeting by Zoom. You know, people were trying to figure out like where our section of town was in relation to other sections that had received sewers. There was a statement made that Copper Kettle was way far away from our house. It's literally straight up Ironwood, about a half a mile from my house. The houses on Copper Kettle and all the adjacent houses and all the houses off that street are all on 1+ acre lots. Most of them are all colonials, just like mine. So, you know, the fact that why our section would have been excluded because of size, that wasn't true. That wasn't accurate. The other thing that was very notable and very eye-opening to me last month, and I just looked at the map that Bill Mauer put up, and you know, you saw the whole town full of sewers, and then there's our little corner, 4 streets, no sewers. I said, either this was a mistake, it was just an arbitrary decision to exclude us, but you know, to me, the whole town has sewers except for 4 streets on our section, and then you've got the Spring Hill section, which I don't know what that's about. You know, necessity was raised as one of the issues that why you would have streets being connected to sewers, but Huntington Turnpike and all the side streets off of Huntington Turnpike had sewers, and you can't tell me that every house had a failed septic on every street up Huntington, every street off of Copper Kettle. It just doesn't make sense. And what I'm really, the way I really feel about this is that I have a 45-year-old home, and you, for whatever reason, we're the orphans of Trumbull. These 4 streets were just left off of the plan. And if the whole purpose is to benefit all residents equally, we clearly weren't or are not benefiting. I mean, my way of thinking, I think others feel similarly, is that it's much easier to pay for an assessment, for a sewer assessment over a period of 18, I'm not sure how many years it is anymore, and pay a sewer use fee than to have to lay out the money that the Santillis are now looking. I mean, we're talking about 50 to 70,000 in one fell swoop, and that's what they're looking at now. And I understand that's nothing that you can do to help them at this point. But the unfortunate and really the shame of it is that had this been finished, had we been connected when everyone else was being connected in that part of town, they wouldn't have to incur this, and maybe others now who are starting to have issues wouldn't have to. So I just, I felt that it was important for me to make clear my strong conviction that I really do think, I don't accept that the fact that my house is on an acre lot, that's a reason I shouldn't have sewers. I understand completely, none of you were members of the WPCA back when phase 4 North Nichols was developed. I understand, I appreciate that. And nobody has any information as to why our 4 streets. Last month, Mr. Maurer was he had come, we had continued the September meeting for him to be able to see if he could find any information, and he didn't. So, there's really no reason why this was done. The other thing I do want to say, I was a little bit dismayed at comments at the first meeting in September that were made and I get it was off the cuff, but I was, the comments were from the commission or from the authority that, maybe 4 to 5 years before sewers, maybe it might be a decade. So, that to me is disconcerting as a resident of the town when you have everyone else who's benefited from the installation of these sewers. And, and I guess that it goes to my request for sewers to be considered, and because that wasn't, contrary to what you said, Mr. Chairman, my question wasn't answered. You may have provided some information, but my request has not been accepted or denied. And I would just like to understand what the plan would be, or is, or won't it be going forward for the sewers, to finish the sewer connection in that corner of the town.
Okay, I have a couple of comments, and then I'll let Bill kind of take it from there.
Can I share my screen so I could
sure.
put up that map?
Yeah, well, that's perfect, because my first comment was going to be, I don't agree with your assessment that your corner of town is that unique in that the sewer lines were not run there.
So can you see the POCD? The page from the POCD?
Yes, we can.
Yep, I can see it.
All the gray colored roads are roads that are not sewered. So it isn't just one little section over here where Ms. Tedesco's house is. It's a large part in the Teller area and a large part in the Tashua area that are not sewered. This red area is where we are working right now to, we call it contract 5. This is the area that is currently being designed.
Can I ask, is this the same map you had last month? Because last month you said the only section that it did not have sewers at this time was Spring Hill.
The Spring Hill section over here is right here, but there's also the Tashua and the Teller.
Yeah. Well, as one who lives off of Teller Road, I can tell you that we don't have them either. Nor do I expect it to be anytime soon that we will have it. Now that's neither here nor there, quite
Right.
frankly, with regard to this request.
Right.
But it looked to me, and my best understanding, and again, I was not part of the board, nobody here was that project of North Nichols was already a rather large project. We've heard that repeatedly from the previous town engineer, and they had to limit the scope somewhere. So we don't have an absolute answer, but I think it quite likely it was, not to say it was a, purely random decision, but rather it was a rational decision that this is the biggest scope we can handle. The real question, and the only question is, are we going to create a future map that includes this? And that's a discussion we can have, but either way you look at it, we're not going to see anything. I mean, we're going to be busy with the existing authorized contract 5 for several years. I don't think it would be reasonable to imply anything earlier than post that for even beginning a project. So it is multiple years. I think the chairman was correct when he said it's 5 years or even 10 years out at best. And I think it would be unreasonable to set any other expectation other than that.
Yeah, and there currently is no plan. That's the other important point that that I didn't hear you restate, but I thought we made that pretty clear in the previous meeting. Now, as John suggested, we certainly have the ability to recraft the current plans. But my biggest concern, and unfortunately we haven't been able to get an answer to this question, we've all been asking it, is why your particular area was excluded. We have the best we can do is speculate. We know that there's an adjacent reservoir that's nearby. Similarly, on the other side, on the eastern side, there's an area that's not sewer that's also adjacent to the reservoir. I don't know if that's relevant, frankly.
There's no reservoir that you're talking about. That's miles away. That's not even close to the 4 streets I'm talking about. But again, what are the protocols? What are the standards? I mean, is it just an arbitrary, we're just going to focus on this? It can't be, because as I said, it couldn't be necessity that project. And again, none of us were involved, so I understand that, but there had to have been. And I don't accept that it was too large of a project. I mean, that was just the last piece that had to be finished, and it was just dropped off, a plan. And so I just think I would like to know, the question came up last month, why couldn't it be tacked on to, complete with, in conjunction with an existing plan? That was, and then it was just, that was just dismissed, that no, it had never been done before. I'm just, again, not sure. I took I just looked at the statutes real quick. I don't do any of this kind of work, so this is all foreign to me, but there's nothing in the statutes that delineates what you have to consider, as far as pretty much you have discretion to do. But I mean, within, there have to be, I would think, regulations that you abide by that give you parameters to consider when you're thinking about doing a project. And why, if you were so choose, couldn't it be tacked on to an existing plan 5, whatever, this next phase is that you're working on?
Can I, Mr. Chairman, can I talk to that a little
Sure.
bit? We spent about a year researching that project 5. And in fact, it was a 3-2 vote even to go ahead with it, because we spent an extensive amount of time researching, frankly, what the community's needs were. And that included not just a survey, but also research with the health department, and Bill and the prior engineer also were involved in doing water testing and other things to determine the scope of the need there. So I mean, even if we decided today we wanted to take on this project, we would probably commit to something on that order just to determine the need, whether the need extends beyond, and the desire, quite honestly, extends beyond those who've chosen to express their opinion. And we took that very seriously. We will take that very seriously. And by the way, I was one of the ones who voted against the other project solely because there was not a definitive determination that the community wanted it. Other members of the board disagreed, and we've gone forward, and we're going to do that project. And I'll fully support the effort to do it once the board made that decision. But I think this, just to be honest with you, even if we decide to look into this, this is not something that's going to come up and occur in the next year or two. We would have to do our homework. Then there would be design work. Bill can describe the process to you, but it'd be 5 years probably, even if we said today, let's go forward with researching it before that project could be online. And quite frankly, we have another project we're working on. So I think there's limited bandwidth and budget and other things that have to be taken into account as well. So I just don't want to mislead you or anybody as far as what that process looks like. It's a multi-year process just to get it started and execute before the first shovel hits the ground.
I understand that. I didn't say, and that was made abundantly clear the last two meetings, that this is not something that just happens. And that's why Mr. Santilli was told, you're going to need to do what you have to do, spend the 50 to 70,000, whatever it's going to cost him. Now, when I keep going back to if this, we had just been included, he wouldn't have to incur this. And I really think, it just bothers me that there's no, who decides? You're going to decide, but this is a request. So am I being denied the request? Are you going to look into it? What is the next? Because it is, and my fault for not following up 2 years ago. And maybe had I, maybe this already would be in the works. I don't know, but I would like to know. And you don't have to vote now unless, but that's something that I'm asking the board to consider. There's a request for sewers. So the fact, your explanation that it could take, you haven't answered whether we are going to get them or not, or you're going to do a feasibility study, or you're going to survey, you're going to have a public hearing to see if they're the neighbors. Because to be honest, other than me and Vince and Janine Santilli, I don't know what our neighbors, I'm being truthful. I don't know. I haven't polled my neighborhood. I don't know. They may all be against me. I don't know.
Well, to answer your question simply, there is no current plan to put sewers in your area. So
I know that.
That's number one. I guess, I've had conversations with Bill about what would it take to even do a study, and that's money and it's time. We haven't, I can't tell you how much and whether it's worthwhile, but as John indicated, we're working with limited bandwidth. We've got another project that's starting design. I'm not sure what you want to hear beyond what we've already said. We could certainly continue the conversation, but whether that happens today, whether we say, okay, we're going to authorize a study of extending sewers into that area, it's not going to happen in time for Mr. Santilli to connect prior to needing a new septic system.
You said that, and I understand that. I do. And it's been said multiple times, but the fact that we don't have a current plan, I would like for there to be consideration for a feasibility study, or what the first step would be. Whether that's doing the study, contacting the neighbors, I don't know. I don't know what the first step is.
Okay, well, if I can put Christine on the spot for a second, because I see her there nodding and looking like she's got something to contribute, and I'm sure she does.
And I'm sorry, Christine was on the meeting last month. I don't know who she is. Is she a member of the board as well?
No.
Okay.
She's a
she works
consultant
with Wright Pierce,
that we use from Wright Pierce.
So can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So my name is Christine Kurtz. I work with the engineering firm Wright Pierce. We are one of the handful of on-call consultants that the board uses to do anything wastewater related. I've been on this, helping the town for, or our firm has for in the order of 10 years. So I have a little bit of history with the WPCA. Since my time working with Trumbull, the project that you're referring, that was approved today, this design that Ty and Bond will be doing, being referred to as Contract 5, Bill, is that right?
That's correct.
So, and that is one small piece of a larger area in the lower right-hand corner of town. So that has been on the books probably as long, if not longer than the area that you're talking about. I know John alluded to some legwork that has occurred over the last year plus. But there had been, there was work done to get up to that point. So I'm just giving you some background on how things work when it comes to planning for sewer extensions. So your area that I think everyone's trying to understand why the area adjacent to your area was sewered and it didn't extend to your neighborhood. People have alluded to some reasons why, meaning zoning, failed septic. Sometimes what's considered is interest, as you indicated right now, you're not sure if your neighbors are interested or not. So maybe at the time, interest was considered and beyond the limits that are sewered now, there wasn't enough interest. Another thing to consider is grade. I don't know how hilly it is up in that area or not, but the project that was installed, you start at your low point and you try not to go too deep, right? But the farther you extend, your sewers have to get deeper and deeper, and ledge pumping, other costs get included into the design that at one point make extension to anywhere cost prohibitive. So that could have been a consideration. I don't know. But understanding your request, if Bill and the commission wanted to, we could do a very high level conceptual look at what would be entailed if sewers was considered.
Richard, could I speak for a moment?
Yeah, Christine, are you done? I mean, I don't know if you were gonna, okay. Sure, Scott.
I have a hazy memory, but I believe that this particular area that she's talking about is similar to the area up at Teller Road that we just talked about a little bit ago. That when those two sections were being proposed, the engineers thought those two areas were way too cost prohibitive because of ledge and, as said before, depth and the amount of blasting and the potential for injury for houses in the area. That's my hazy memory of it, and that's why certain sections of Lower Nichols and also certain sections of Teller Road weren't sewered. Does that make sense?
As a Teller Road resident, I know that's the case in my region. They would have to blast their way up the hill. I don't know the region that Mr. Disco is asking about, so I can't comment, but I know that was considered when they were looking at things. I guess the question, and I apologize for the phone ringing in the background. I guess the question is, are we going to formally say no? In which case, at least Mr. Disco has an answer. Or are we going to say that we're going to take at least some preliminary action, at least investigate it? And that's really the extent of the options I think available to us at this time. It's do we at least do something that might get the process started? Again, probably for many years out, or are we just going to say we don't want to look at it at this time? We don't believe it's something we can take on. Perhaps the chairman could comment more on that, but I think those are the options available to us.
This Frank, can I speak? I think
Sure.
I think the real question is there a plan? And I don't know because I'm new, but is there a plan to sewer the rest of town, or is the plan just to do Contract 5 and then not do anything for a while? I mean, I don't know what the plan is.
I can say my experience is that it's only the latter that you mentioned. It's Contract 5, which you're only doing a piece of now. It's a much bigger area. And if the map, Bill had the map, it's I think a whole different color set of pipe on that map. That is your essentially what has always been considered the last project area for planning purposes. So again, my knowledge of the system is oh, I guess it's orange or a red color on that map. That's the last planned area. So the area that's being asked about now is not currently being planned for, nor is anything up in the upper northern section of town.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. And I mean, frankly, we could study any one of those areas that are grayed out, but I think it's very unlikely that it's going to be cost effective. And again, I'm taking that on faith that the folks that did this original study looked at all the same issues that we'd be looking at. I mean, Christine, is it fair to say that the financial, the break-even points and financial parameters in 2020, let's say 2025, aren't going to be radically different from those variables in 2000 or 1992? Is that a fair assumption?
Yes, that's fair.
So unless the previous analysis was really flawed and we don't have any evidence.
But you don't, excuse me for interrupting, but you don't have any analysis. The board member that just spoke a few minutes ago, and forgive me, I don't remember his name, but he thought he had a recollection. Bill Maurer tried to find information, couldn't. So, we don't know for sure what the reasoning was that those 4 streets were excluded. So
that is correct.
So, I mean, I would like, and I think Mr. Green, I think his options, and those are the 2, right? Either you're going to deny my request or you're going to put this on your agenda to consider, whether it be for future study and whatever that first step is toward that end. And if it turns out, that that's not something that is affordable, or, there's too much ledge or whatever the issue is, the grading, then I guess that's the answer to that. But I'm not satisfied that it's not on your plan. It never has been. It won't be. But we need to get it to that point. And that's what I'm trying to get you to do. That's what I'm asking. What is it that?
Well, I'm balking a little bit at the cost of visiting areas of town that are not currently planned for sewers, because because of the cost. There's a cost associated with that. Maybe it's fair. I mean, again, I'll pose the question back to Christine. You mentioned a high-level analysis.
Right.
What are we talking in terms of dollars to do? And again, I wouldn't want to just limit it to that one section of town on the Shelton line. I would really say, all right, if we're going to do it there, we really should be looking at all of the areas that are not currently in the plan and understand why.
I guess
what are we talking? Is that a $20,000 study? Is that a $500,000 study?
No, I think what I would consider is more like a back of the napkin. So obviously, if you were intending to seriously consider sewering that area, and I would just do the part that's being requested right now. One of the steps you need to do is hydraulically model the pipes downstream to see if the flow can be handled. I wouldn't do that now. I would just identify what needs to happen. What we could look at is the invert of the pipes that would be connected to, and look at the general topography, again, not without survey or anything, nothing specific, and understand if 1, none, 5 pump stations were needed, or all the homes would need pump stations, and do something, use our really what we call concept or, 5-year budgeting type level cost estimating. $500 per linear foot, 5 pump stations. This project, if you were to do it, and if there was capacity, and we don't know about ledge, so we'd have to guess, would cost X. And you have 10 homes, 50 homes, however many homes you have, it's going to cost each of them Y. This is what, I think from that, quick, $5,000 effort, you'll know if this is going to stick around as a request or not.
I think we need to move that preliminary back of the napkin study to at least to be able to evaluate whether we should consider this or not.
And I have no problem with focusing solely on the area that's made a request. I don't think we have to go into Tashua or my neighborhood for that matter to answer this request. And I think 5,000 is perfectly a reasonable thing to do, to at least answer to the neighbors in that part of town. I don't know how many homes there are. Let's say there's 50. It's $100 a home to find out whether it makes sense to at least look, to go further in looking into this, into that area. I would have no problem with that at all. I think that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I think at that, with that dollar figure, I'd be comfortable with that as well, but it's not really $100 per home because it's getting spread among a lot more homes.
I
Well,
understand, but
I get where you're coming from. Yeah, and it's not a large amount, so I think.
Is there
I think
any
I could-
archival data on the adjacent project and how it was sized and how the perimeter was drawn? Is there anything possible in that that says why that portion of the town wasn't extended to? I mean,
So this is Scott again. I would imagine that the previous WPCA remembered this because they set this all out. If we ask them and if they say the reason is ledge and cost, is that?
When was that section built?
What's that?
When was that section built? Do you know that they're connecting to, they would connect to?
That was the contract for. That was the Nichols area.
Oh, okay. So so the probability of finding some records in town hall is decent compared to.
Yes, I mean, there's design plans for that section of town. We have as-built and all that kind of stuff, so
That would be a first step, I think, is.
yeah, I just wonder if there's any mention in there as to why that last corner was excluded. If it was looked at and excluded for some reason,
Right.
be a shame not to get a hold of that if it exists.
So I've been in the relative area as well, and I remember that period of time. I really believe it was ledge. I think if we can find out if it's ledge, we may not even have to do the study we're talking about.
right.
so.
Okay, what's the process? I mean, Bill, can we dump that in your lap?
I think that we do need to do preliminary review of contract 4 and get a number of count of houses and, like Christine said, the topography, and to put that all together and see what it looks like.
Is that part of or prior to the analysis Christine talked about earlier?
Well, I think if Bill could just look through the files to see what PDR, preliminary design report documentation can be found, if it can be, or maybe we can reach out to Frank and see if he can direct accordingly. I think what Charles was talking about, there might be some light shed onto why it wasn't extended. It's going to be a function of how much records can be found from the past.
So Mr. Chairman, should we proceed with the Bill doing that analysis prior to the next meeting? And then if there's nothing that gives an indication as to why this wasn't included, then we can proceed with a motion for the, what Christine referred to as the back of the envelope analysis at the next meeting.
Yeah,
Is that appropriate?
I think that's appropriate. And again, just to sort of circle back to Ms. Tedisco, I think the planets would really have to be aligned in an unexpected way for the net result of this effort to be sewers in your part of town, to be perfectly honest. But I think, it's ever.
Never say never.
See, but that's exactly how do you as a board chair just make an arbitrary and unilateral decision like that?
That was not a decision. That was an opinion of a likely outcome.
No, well, you've said that now several times, and I take exception to it because you have a board who makes that decision. So you're telling
that is correct. I have no argument. I'm just saying I'm sharing what I believe to be the case, and I could be wrong. There's no question. But so it is not a decision. It is an opinion, and the decision is going to be a function of the data that comes out of the analysis, the information that Bill is able to unearth about the
Okay.
rationale of the limits of contract 4, and if appropriate, we will follow that up with a further analysis of the conditions in that area beyond contract.
Well, my understanding was that was what was supposed to have happened at the end of the September meeting. The October meeting, Bill was going to come back with information, and he said he couldn't find any. So now I don't know. So I don't know if that was something he didn't look at these studies that are in town hall. I thought that was the point of the October, continuing my request to the October agenda. So,
I'll keep digging.
okay.
It's sort of like, how long do you keep looking? When you're looking for something, when do you stop? You stop when you find it. And there's no guarantee that we're going to find any information at that point. We're giving it another month. At that point, we will authorize, or we will discuss authorizing further a new investigation that's going to run into some cost.
All right, so you're not committing at this point to that if he doesn't find something that's definitive in the town hall records, that you're gonna take up the next phase, and that decision will be made at the next meeting as to whether you authorize Christine to do this analysis?
Well, yeah, let's see if we can get any better information at this point.
Okay,
I mean, again, keep in mind the time frame here. I mean, in the next month, nothing is going to happen that's going to change the equation, and it's not going to help your neighbors with failing septic systems. They need to respond to those regardless of what we do.
right, and they understand that full well. Okay. All right. We'll see what happens at the next meeting then. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, year-to-date budget report. Back to Bill.
If you, in your package, you have the up-to-date budget report. Basically, we're pretty much on target. The only thing that I see that may be a bit of a issue is our overtime. Actually, we cut it down in this budget, and it's higher than we really anticipated. Considering that we still have a ways to go. Basically, it was because of COVID that we had additional overtime.
So was there like additional absenteeism that led to the additional overtime?
No, contractually, because of the way the contract is written, because town hall was closed, there was they got paid extra for coming in. Other than that, we're pretty much, actually, there's a lot of them we haven't even, we're way ahead on some of the items like extraordinary, which we have a budget of, I thought it was 80,000. And we haven't even touched it.
Nothing.
Yep. So that's
yeah.
Because I don't even want to go there, how fast I can go.
I did want to ask a question about capital outlay, because that was one that was a significant difference. Is that something where you're anticipating an expense at the end of the year?
That capital outlay is, that's a good question. Capital outlay includes some of the sewer repairs that we do for the roads. It includes GIS. Actually, the 400,000 that we put for the force main is in that number. We put 400,000 at the last minute
Okay,
for the force main repair.
so that'll explain that. Okay, and this is calendar year, right? Or is this,
No, this is fiscal year.
okay. That's part of it too. Okay, anything else on the budget report? No other questions?
Jim, you're muted if you're talking.
You're still muted.
Got it. I have one question for Bill, Rick,
Sure.
and sorry I got in late. Bill, do you know, are you permitted your budget to transfer between line items?
No.
No, okay. So having a big surplus in one line item is not going to help you with a shortage elsewhere.
Not that I'm aware of.
know.
Bill, I think Maria can do that with you, right?
Yeah, but I think that you'd have to go to the Board of Finance with that, no?
Right.
You
Well,
could move it, but you can't just move it. You'd have to go through the whole process.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was going to say, I know the Board of Finance and the Town Council can authorize transfers between line items. It just occurred to me when you were saying that, you're short some areas and, surpluses elsewhere. I know it's not halfway through the year yet, but
Right.
I just wanted to clarify that it is possible to do with Board of Finance approval. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Okay, anything else on the budget? Okay, next item is Old Town and Reservoir Avenue Pump Station updates.
Yeah, I have all the bid documents going through them now. I have a opinion of probable cost, which I really don't want to state because that number goes out public. But we looks like we've budgeted enough money to cover it.
Okay,
We're
that's
hoping
the
to get
important
that
thing.
out in the next month to get it out to bid for an early January, late January return, so we can get contract going and all the submittals, so we can have a spring start.
Okay. And next up is the big one, the Beardsley Pump Station Force Main.
We finished putting the Beardsley Park back together. Where there was a section of road that we had to pave and some fencing we had to put back and some landscaping. We've got that all completed. We will be seeing that. I haven't seen the change order for that yet, but I had to do it because we had to put that park back, make it whole. They've been very patient with us, and we probably have to rip it all apart again, but it's
Yeah.
not our town, not our park, so we can't leave it in a disarray. The pump station itself, it's just a few minor punch list items. We're substantially complete, and everything's going good.
All right, good. Okay, next, number 6, any other business? Anyone have anything else to discuss before we break? Nothing. All right. I'd like to call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. It's Frank.
Do we? Oh, Christine is waving. You have something you want to say? Or? Oh, you're jumping the gun. All right. Do we have a second to adjourn?
Scott?
All right. I'd like to get a unanimous consent to adjourn. Show of hands. Any dissenters? Hearing none, we are adjourned. It is 8:01.